Hi.
Hello. Okay. Everyone who put something on the agenda is here and then some. So I will share my screen and we can get started. Good to see you all, especially since our little digital snafu last month. I'll put a link to the agenda in the chat. If someone who's not actively talking could write the attendees in there, I would much appreciate it. And Plamen, you're up first, adding a new CMB lifecycle in Diego release.
Yes, hi everyone. So basically this is a request from a group of colleagues from our organization. So they are actually responsible for the new lifecycle delivery, and pull request which will actually add the new CNB lifecycle in Diego release. And basically it's a request for feedback. So to all of you, if you have some feedback, please provide it to them so that they can implement it. And if there are some unknowns or whatever, so that we are able to clarify and resolve them. So I'm really happy to see that there is already communication ongoing. But for those of you who are not yet familiar, please familiarize yourself, and if you have some feedback, provide it into the pull request. So
For what it's
yeah,
worth, I couldn't resist the direct invitation of it's going to start in 3 minutes.
Yeah, so my last comment, I was like, oh, I can't put everything I want here. Maybe either Jan or Plamen, you can start with just an overview. I know not everyone is all up to date on what CMBs are, the generic idea. Maybe you can provide that context.
Yeah,
Oh,
I see
sure.
Jan here, so Jan, please.
Sure, I can do that. So cloud native build packs are kind of the next evolution, the next version of build packs as we know it. It's kind of like it's a CNCF project that defined a specification for it. I think that was like staffed initially by colleagues from both Heroku and Cloud Foundry, actually. So there were pivotal now Broadcom employees and are still, and Salesforce employees, and even others joined. And it's a specification for how you can build container images using similar conveniences as build packs provide for creating droplets. And Paquette is a CFF project with actually an implementation, and it's going to be like very familiar faces. I think the Java CF build pack contributors are maintainers of the Paquette Java build pack and so on and so forth. So most of them are actually the same people. And we worked on an implementation to have an alternative lifecycle type. A third one, actually, like besides build pack and Docker lifecycle, there's now a CNB app lifecycle. We managed to actually not need kind of any change in Diego. So technically it needs to be included in the release, but it just works as others work. So we produce droplets. They get started with the root file system underneath by Diego, just as build pack applications get started. So there's a whole other repository in the Cloud Foundry org that has that lifecycle. And we just use the CNB facilities to run it and just extract the droplets from it. And so staging applications basically works very much the same way as with classical build packs. It's just new stuff, but it also like still continues to do very much the same things, right? It puts the JVM in there if it's Java. It might run a Maven build, which I think even classical build packs don't. So I think there was maybe something added to so you can actually CF push sources and then a Maven build will kick in and build your Java files. And that's basically it. And this one here is really just about adding the new lifecycle to the Diego release to make it available. There is a feature flag in copy disabled by default, so it's not going to be directly shipped as something enabled. And for now, you need to specify the build pack with the -b. There's already a follow-up RFC that will allow system build packs to be provided. Yeah, that's about it. I guess the controversial or potentially controversial parts are in the comment that I just skimmed over, not really read in detail, where like it seems to be the default in the working group that the Go versions are managed somewhere else. The tests are actually run in the release. And I'm scratching my head in terms of what kind of inconveniences this will actually bring to the individual repositories. So that might need some back and forth. But I think, yeah, my colleagues actually open pull requests on BBS and lock it to actually introduce GoMod files to have these repos to be self-contained, but I think both are closed. So kind of got rejected as an idea. So I don't know yet. I still need to go through this, but definitely questions like how do you test just the app lifecycle? Because we want to test that, right? And we don't usually need a Diego release. So that's an interesting question, at least from my point of view.
Can I ask some questions about the just like the basics of the CNB lifecycle? So
Sure.
like we're talking about like, you know, the build pack we are telling it to do is Paquette build pack Java in the case to use for that Java app. And the way I understand it is that it's telling it that it's a Docker image.
No,
pull from
yeah,
somewhere.
that one actually is. So there's a typo in my comment. It should be like -- lifecycle CNB for cloud native build packs, not CAB. So you select the CNB lifecycle. And that's one of the life cycles that exists. The other is Docker image and classical build packs. And the build pack that is specified there is actually a Docker image, but well, it's an OCI image, but that's just a packaging thing, right? There's no command in there, and there's no command executed there. The commands that get executed are detect and build, which are the implementations of the specified behavior, which is pretty similar to classical build packs, who also, I think, have a detect and build. Like there are more phases that had to do with the modularity of classical build packs, and I think that's just solved differently. So there are component build packs like JVM, Maven, Apache Tomcat, and there is like a composite or meta build pack, which is the Java one that contains multiple of those, and then all of those are tested for detection. And depending on whether they are mandatory or optional, they all need to detect positively or not. And then like basically the Java build pack in full detects, and then there is a build plan created to execute, right? So the Apache Tomcat build pack can write into that build plan that, yeah, you need to install an Apache Tomcat. So please call me later. But it's basically, it's very similar to classical build packs, only when it comes to the multi-build pack cases that were, I think, introduced like 5 years ago. It might deviate and work differently.
Okay, I mean, I can go on asking some questions about like some of the technical aspects of this, but maybe we just skip that for the conversation of here. But like overall, I think the one feedback that like as I am reading through this and going through this thing is that it will help to have like examples like in detail the step, like here's the app that we're pushing and here's the exact command that we're going to be running and here's the expected releases to be in place. Like we have a list of the PRs up top. My assumption is that as long as the 3 PRs are there, Diego release can be deployed, and that like that CF push command will work. But as we go on this journey, I guess that's what I would I think you know, as far as like sort of like contributing in that area to try to at least get the initial work merged in here, just have that like clarity up front, like as much as possible, because it makes like our life easier that we're I guess, you know, we haven't like looked at the entire
It sounds like, I
process
mean,
of
you
it.
want to try it yourself, basically.
Well, Yeah, when we're adding an entirely new life cycle, and I just want to like say that with caution because life cycles don't get deleted from Diego. Okay, so it's not something you just lightly add on and then you go like, well, oops, we just decided to add a CMB 2.0 of this later. It's not one of those things in here that we ever like change in some ways. So I want to make sure that like this life cycle that it gets added, like for example, in here, we have a Windows app lifecycle under Diego release that no one uses right now.
So-
And it's
so,
related to Windows Server 2012, yet we just can't delete it.
It's like, so for this kind of discussion, I'd say that happened on the RFC level. So we did run an RFC to introduce that. And that was agreed upon. Like maybe not everybody was heard, but that was agreed upon. So I think that discussion happened on the TOC level and with an RFC that got integrated. There's a follow-up RFC that I briefly mentioned already about the possibility to have system build packs. So I guess this is serious. So we mean it and want to keep it actually like that life cycle. But maybe it helps to add the link to the RFC here, which should give the context. And I already thought that we have a tracking item in my backlog that lists all the PRs that are related. Maybe I should add them to, like, as a comment to the RFC, like here's the implementation pull requests. There are more than listed here. Like we have a PR that's, I think, even already merged for the Cloud Foundry acceptance tests. And there is the CLI, of course, also has a related PR because it needs to support the -- lifecycle command that already exists as well. So, but I might want to have like add the RFC link here, and then to the RFC, I might want to add all the implementation PRs that are either in flight or merged already.
At least in my comment, the RFC is referenced.
Okay, so there's already a reference. So we
RFC
did,
28.
there was a discussion for how this should look like, and where we proposed that we actually create droplets, right? It's not that we create OCI container images, which would lead to many more open questions, I'd say, in terms of how does that influence the Cloud Foundry lifecycle itself. I, for one, believe we should really even stop there and not even consider creating OCI images because of all the problems it would entail if you would then, like, I mean, Cloud Native build packs have a command to rebase images. So a similar facility exists, like to rebase the application layers on top of a new root file system. But that does then include something that right now happens implicitly, right? There's a new Diego cell. Apps get evacuated to there, and as soon as that happens, they automatically just run with a new root file system. That would need to be an explicit operation as part of the lifecycle if we ever go to full OCI images. So I would probably issue a lot of caution to that. But yeah, as I said, there's this RFC and there's a follow-up RFC to add system build packs. And if there is more principal discussions, even if that PR is already, the RFC is already merged and accepted, I'd probably do the discussion there to even get the attention of whoever participated in the original RFC discussions.
Yeah.
Does
Yeah,
that
and
make sense?
you probably saw I gave you an action item.
Yeah.
Here. Perfect.
Yeah. And well, instructions, it's like it's part of CF deployment. So we actually have a bubble up environment running for us. So it should work with bubble up. When you include all the pieces, of course, you need to have the Diego release that does contain that one, of course. So we have a dev release for it.
Right.
But if you do all that, you should be able to just create an environment where you can really experience that and try it out.
Okay.
Only thing worth noting for that is you then need to enable the feature in copy. Otherwise it's disabled. But yeah.
So when I was looking at this PR, like if you look at the files change, right, just like you said, nothing is actually changing in Diego. It's just adding this to it.
Yeah.
And so just maybe so other people know there is a CF deployment PR open. And it will tell, actually, I'm not sure what job this is in. Is this in cloud controller? Yeah, or provides, yeah, this is in cloud controller. So it tells the API, hey, when you want a lifecycle, that's a CNB lifecycle, this is the location of it. And so this is actually what, like the piping was already there, right? And so you're just adding a new input to this piping.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's quite some changes in copy, of course, like how they trigger the actual stage and the data changes there. And also for what is worth, like the CNB app lifecycle PR is already merged, so that one is in place. And we are currently the only approvers in that sub area. I think that was most of the, like mostly, Amelia, you were concerned that we just drop some code there and then Diego maintainers are responsible. We will happily have more people on there if there's anybody interested in application lifecycles. And we are also, despite the fact the PR is merged, interested in feedback. So if you have an opinion on how lifecycles work and if we do something stupid in there, please probably use maybe use commit diff commenting functionality, so you can really point out to where things are and mention me. I get GitHub notifications more than I like, but I usually don't miss them. So that should also work for commit comments, which are a bit trickier than PR comments, I think. But feel free to comment on the existing code in that other repo if you have an opinion on app lifecycles. And also, if you want to join the maintenance of that, whether as contributor or approver, I'm very happy to see more people joining there.
Yeah, just to show what Jan was talking about. There's this new area that we added just for the CNB app lifecycle with all the people who are working on it. Even though it's very related to the Diego area, there's politics around adding people to big areas in approvership, and I didn't want to slow them down, so I wanted to be able to give them right access as they were developing this, when they might not have been able to get approver access to the Diego area. So it is a little awkward that it's their own area right now, but it has been working for them to be able to develop this out. So my concerns that I put 4 minutes ago, so not enough time for you to probably read 4 minutes before the meeting, are so you're not like changing anything in Diego, but it is adding a new sub module, and it's just how is it going to behave compared to the other sub modules? And so the 4 areas that I called out that I would like us to all come to an agreement on, we don't have to do it right in this meeting, but we can discuss them. So I want us to come to an agreement on these before we merge it, is basically like, where will the test run? Currently, all submodules have their tests run in the Diego release pipeline. We bump submodules automatically. So whatever's on main every day, it will be updated. And I'm pretty sure if we merged this in right now, it would just happen automatically.
Okay.
Go updates, we, as you know, manage Go at the release level. So that's done also in our concourse pipeline. And dependency bumps. And so that's on the per repo basis.
But there are no GoMod files, right? Are there? I think at least for some of the things like BBS, we didn't really find GoMod files down there. So how are dependencies bumped on the sub-module level? But anyway, I'll defer that to my team, and we'll see how that works. But I'm really curious, like how you have a fast inner loop when the tests are actually run somewhere else.
Brandon, you want to answer? I saw you on mute.
Yeah, some of that is just because we basically just kind of do like a Go submodule update in the pipeline in order to just get the latest commits and everything, and then run all of the tests that are in the Diego release repository. There is an effort to actually get Go mod files into the submodule so that we can do it more independently, but that's difficult and it's taking us a bit to even get to it.
Yeah, as I said, I think my team actually even tried for BBS and Locket, and that got declined.
Yeah, I kind of took a look at those. I commented on one of them, and the amount of work just to untangle and everything, especially within the Diego release repo, there's actually even some circumstances where there's circular dependencies, and untangling that highly coupled mess right now is an inordinate amount of work. It's just so much work to do. We've done some initial explorations into to getting ourselves out of this mess, and we do recognize that it is a mess. But it's going to take a significant amount of work. And so it's something we want to do, like Brandon said, but it's a large chunk of work.
Should we then consider this new repo as a potential test ground for how this could look like, or should we add it to the entanglement?
I would defer to Amin on that one.
You're asking, should we try this one as having its own Go modules? Like, that's not a problem. It can handle having this it being as a Go module, because it will not we're not using the CNB lifecycle code base inside the Diego. So you had an original question of like, how do you then manage Go dependencies? We actually do have a Go mod file, but our Go mod file lives in the release level as opposed to the submodule level. And we use path-based import then, because our Go mod is more generic, is just code.cloudfoundry.org. And then uses the path-based of BBS to then import that out as the file. But that's for it using the source code. In the case of CNB lifecycle, it will just be there as a physical thing. Nothing is actually getting used.
I was even thinking about whether we could just we in our own GitHub instances, GitHub Enterprise instances, we use a lot, really use GitHub releases. So I was even surprised to hear those are going to be bumped from main, which means you need to be very careful with main. Which for us, we work trunk based, so we are careful with main, keeping it in a releasable state, but that doesn't mean that every single commit is considered release. So it's going to be something we need to look at. I even considered we could even create the binaries as release assets. There's no need that these binaries are created as part of the release in theory. I guess that would be true for all the app life cycles, because they are used as binaries actually.
Well, the thing is,
it's a longer thing, I guess.
Like the Bosch releases life cycle, you always want to be building the binaries on the packaging level. You don't, I mean, especially when it comes to something like a life cycle that we're going to be shipping it out on every cell, everywhere, every container will have it. Like for having a pre-compiled binary is probably not the best idea, but having that visibility of like what is happening to build this binary at the packaging level, it's a much better open source approach to that problem, I'd say.
I'm okay. I see the point, like that Bosch releases our sources and get compiled. I'm not so sure if the same concerns still apply with Go being the main language, which is I think pretty stable and independent from the stem cell or whatever, or where you were compiled. But I agree that that's probably a hard thing to now push around, and it's not that necessary. But I think there's a couple of things we need to get used to. But I think the comment from you, Amelia, summarizes it quite well. So I'm curious to hear from my team what they think about it. Like when we next look at it. And sure, we shouldn't steer too much like things there. But as I said, I could see that if you're anyway in an endeavor to untangle some things, we could maybe find some ground there to not add to the entanglement that we plan to disentangle.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Is there anything else about CNBs that we want to talk about right now? I think I'll take an action item. to get eyes on the CNBcode itself. And maybe we can continue discussing, the 4 items that I brought up and where we want to go. Just because we do it this way doesn't mean you have to, but just wanted to state where we
It's
are.
like, yeah, it's like, I mean, it also makes sense to not touch too many things. Like, it's
Yeah.
not, as long as questions are clear, like how are we going to work? Like, we want to have a short and easy dev cycle, right? To be able to quickly run the tests and
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if that just means you also need to work on does it mean you all work in the Diego release on the checked out submodule?
Yeah.
To actually be able to quickly run the tests, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. For all of our releases, we have scripts at the release level to run the tests. Yeah. And our Diego approvers, maybe even reviewers, have access to the Diego pipeline. And so I'm sure we could extend that to the CMB app lifecycle folks so that they have access to it as well and they can see what's going on. Okay, we'll continue talking. I'm glad you came. Jovan. Log message leading and trailing whitespace trimming in log cache is optional. Tell me more.
As Janis and his team were
Oh.
working on the CNBs, we saw that when Packer is used, the output of the logs is indented a bit better, so that the logs have better visibility. And in our case, with CF logs, we saw that everything was indented to the left. So I did a quick analysis to see where this thing happened, and I saw that in log cache we're trimming the leading white space, and I added a configuration parameter with which the operators can control if the trimming of the leading and trailing white space and the indentation in the log output should be there or not. From our side, from the point of view of the logging and metrics, I think that we shouldn't touch the log messages and send them as they're sent by the producers, and also compared what's happening on the fire hosts. And on the fire host, we don't touch the messages. On log cache, we had this streaming in place, and we've had it as an optional possibility, so that if someone needs to have the trimming, to leave it in place, and then for the others that want to have some indentation in their logs, that they can do that.
Nice. Yes, one of these looks much nicer than the other. So I'm glad you did a config because you never know what's gonna break anyone.
Yeah,
Are you looking at turning it on by default in CFD?
No, at the moment we left it as it is, so that the trimming happens, so that we don't break anything. But if someone wants to do this, they can create an ops file and reconfigure them. So there's a config parameter. We didn't go that far, so that we had an ops file in the CFD. Maybe it would make sense, but
I mean, if you all agree that you think this is the correct way to go, that it shouldn't be trimming white space, then I think it'd be okay to turn it on by default in CFD, but just in the next major version, mark it as a breaking change that hopefully won't actually break anyone.
yeah, that was our concern as well. Maybe some people are relying on this streaming and saving some things or showing some things in their logging solutions. So that's why we wanted to go with the default as it is practically, so that we don't change the behavior.
Makes sense. Nice, thank you. You had another one too. Syslog Jane UX improvements.
since we're like in the login metrics area, we're preaching like migrating everything to shared nothing and using Syslog trains as an alternative to the fire hose nozzles because of the noisy neighbor problem. We've noticed that many of our customers have problems like realizing what happens wrong when they configure their Syslog drains, and we get a lot of tickets about that, and we've taken we've taken a look into the code. We have everything in place so that we can. The problem is actually that the Syslog drains are configured as custom as user provided services, and when they're created, the whole configuration is stored in the cloud controllers database, but and they're used much later when the app is deployed and we configure the Syslog agent so that the log forwarding can happen, and during this configuration at the moment, the only people who get to know what's happening and or what's going wrong are the platform operators via the Syslog agents logs. So we're thinking here to improve the situation so that when an application developer creates a Syslog drain, they will get some feedback in the logs on what's happening with the logs. If they don't have connectivity, if the Syslog drain can be created or not, or if they configure the TLS certificate for if they want MTLS encryption for the connection wrongly. So it will save us a lot of time and nerves as platform operators, because the app developers will see themselves what's happening there. So if you know some people who have problems or something, point them here. If they want to connect, if they need something more. At the moment, the idea is that everything that can be seen by the platform operator for a particular Syslog drain related to an app or an organization to be also available in the application logs for this particular application. So
That'll be great. Yeah, letting the app devs actually see the errors.
yeah, we're getting many tickets where they say, I don't know, my Syslog drain doesn't work. What's going on? And then we see sometimes that they have connectivity problems, for example, with the firewall, or that they've configured wrongly the certificate, and the TLS validation fails, and or I don't know, when they have too big log load that cannot be consumed completely by their Syslog collector, Syslog server. So there we will cover various types of problems with this, and hopefully we will help the operator so that they wouldn't have much to do there.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. Okay, that's the only items on our agenda today. Is there anything else anyone wants to discuss? Okay, well, it was lovely seeing all of you. and I'll see you all in
If
Slack.
if I see the chat correctly, there's a new face that wanted to introduce themselves.
Hey, yeah, it's me. It's Sreekanth, and I know a couple familiar faces here. Marc, Amelia, if you can remember me, I was part of Kansas support on West Coast until May 1st of last month. So a month ago, I joined Wells Fargo, part of an cloud acceleration team, migrating monolithic to the CAS, PKGI. So now I'm joining you on this side from the customer side of things. So now I'm more into the open source and planning few things for them. So I'm more interested in these things, joining these kind of conversations now. So thank you. So I'll introduce myself.
Awesome.
You're
Good
welcome.
to see you from
Yeah.
another side.
Yeah, I was from the pivotal days 2018 till 2024. It was a long journey. So yeah, this is my core area now. So I'm getting along on the customer side as well. Nice to see you all again. Love it.
Great. Thanks for saying hi. Okay. Anything else from anyone? I will see you all in Slack.
Bye.
Okay, see you. Bye bye.
So bye bye.